MLB Insider drops bombshell Mets report as earlier this month, trade rumors around this guy, Paul Skenes, arose due to the Pirates' then 17-34 record, now 21-37. Good for dead last in the National League Central. The reporter is former Reds and Nationals general manager, now insider of The Atlantic, Jim Bowden. He put together a potential package for Skenes to go to the New York Mets. As I welcome you back to Mets Digest, I'm your host today, Mike Duda, and as always, I like to start off with some statistics, and today's stat is that 73.6% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed. So please do me a favor, hit that free subscribe button. That way we can bring content to you about the Amazins here at Mets Digest. So before we get into the video, unfortunately, this trade is not happening this year. We take a look here at our first quote of the day. It is from Pirates general manager Ben Cherington. He shut this down over a week ago when he flatly said the following quote, "No, it's not part of the conversation at all," when he was asked if trading Skenes would be a consideration. Now, Skenes actually spoke on this matter. He said, quote, "I don't feel anything good or bad toward it. Just really got to keep doing what we're doing, continue learning, and let everything take care of itself, I guess." So Skenes doesn't seem 100% loyal to the Pirates. Not that he dislikes Pittsburgh or the Pirates or anything like that, but this quote doesn't make me feel as if he's super loyal to the Pirates and would turn down a trade. I think if Pirates management were to go up to him and say, "Hey, you've been traded," I think he would reply simply, "Okay, thank you for your time," pack a bag, and just head wherever he needs to head. And I think that's what motivated Jim Bowden to still go through with some potential packages, despite the Pirates saying that they're not going through with it this year. He had a lot to say. He said, quote, "The problem for the Pirates, well, one of their problems, is that they don't have a lot of valuable trade chips at the major or minor league level. They don't have a stream of top prospects waiting in the wings to help the big league club anytime soon, and they've established that they don't want to spend significant money in free agency. Therefore, how do they expect to improve enough to contend? Perhaps trading Skenes isn't as far-fetched as you'd think. As agonizing as it would be for Pittsburgh fans, the Pirates' best pathway to respectability is probably to trade him." Now, admittedly, on the surface, and my first opinion was that Pittsburgh should never do this deal. This would be a ridiculous trade to make. Why would you give up Paul Skenes, your best player, probably the best player in the history of the Pirates, even though it's only his second year? But I understand Bowden's point. The Pirates don't have the best prospect system, despite being one of the worst teams in the league. They don't have a lot of good MLB talent, so why not trade your one guy? Granted, he's incredible. He's probably worth 2 or 3, maybe even 4 players, but why not trade your one player for 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 players that are all prospects who could be really good, even great, and also some MLB-ready talent now. That'll make the Pirates a little bit more competitive now, and by now I mean next year because they're not doing this deal this year, but it would make them a little bit more competitive next year and also in the years coming as their prospects begin to come up in the farm system and the prospects they trade Skenes for also come up in the farm system. I think it would work out well. It's more of a Tampa Bay Rays kind of rebuild where you rebuild through the farm system because the Pirates are not a spending team. So let's go ahead and talk about what this actual deal would be. Bowden said that the Mets would get Paul Skenes and only Paul Skenes. Makes sense. It's a one-player deal. And in return, the Pirates would get 4 of the Mets' top 5 prospects, including numbers 1, 2, 3, and 5 in Jet Williams, Brandon Sproat, Carson Benj, and Ryan Clifford. So let's go ahead and hear some more from the experts. This time we're going to look at Tim Boyle from the Rising Apple. He said, quote, "The Mets give up a lot in this trade proposal for Paul Skenes, but it's a deal you make 10 out of 10 times." And we'll get a little bit more into it, but I first want to go over what Boyle said in terms of his explanation. He said, quote, "Jet Williams and Carson Benj are the 2 we should hate to see go, most simply because of how well they're performing this year, as well as how dynamic each seems to be in a variety of ways. The sting of losing Brandon Sproat isn't what it once was. His AAA struggles have made him a secondary thought in the farm system behind players like Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, and others on the rise. Is he trapped in a cul-de-sac with a turnaround or a dead-end street? Ryan Clifford has shown flashes of excellence. Power is the name of his game. Unfortunately, it comes with a low batting average. far too many strikeouts, and as more of a first baseman than a versatile corner outfielder at times as well. So as Boyle alluded to, here is one of the two guys that the Mets are really going to dread having to let go of. This is Jet Williams, a 5'7", 175 shortstop slash outfielder, age 21, with an estimated time of making the pros this year in 2025. Former first round pick, 14th overall back in 2022. And when you look at his stats, they're really good. And in fact, this year is the highest level that he's played at in the minor leagues with Double-A Binghamton, and he has the best statistics of his minor league career at the highest level. So that's good. Definitely a promising prospect and a reason why he is the number one prospect in the Mets system. However, the ETA of 2025 doesn't really make sense to me because the Mets are really jammed up in the infield this year in particular, and also he hasn't even made it to AAA yet, so I don't see a world in which he's even coming up for September call-ups, but I think he would come up in 2026 or later. Granted, if he goes to the Pirates, I think he makes an impact right away. I think they get him in AAA ASAP and then probably call him up for September call-ups or possibly even earlier. Now, going back to the Mets side of things, I understand why you don't want to get rid of him. He's a really promising prospect with very good statistics so far. However, the Mets are eventually going to have a jam-up. He plays shortstop and outfield. You already have your shortstop for the next 8 years in Francisco Lindor. He signed a 10-year deal that started a couple of years ago. And then in the outfield, your corner outfielders are set for the next 5+ years. Brandon Nimmo still has 6 years left on his contract, and Juan Soto just signed a 15-year deal. So you're going to put him in center. Fine, but you have a jam up in the infield with guys that can play the outfield. Luisangel Acuna and Jeff McNeil. It's been to the point that McNeil has played some center field so far this year, and they've been talking about Luisangel Acuna going out there in center because there's such a jam up in the infield. So really, where are you going to put Williams? The Mets are in such a good spot that they have so much depth right now that it almost seems like prospects aren't necessary because they have a lot of really good players inked on really long-term deals. Now here's the other guy that Boyle said was going to be a problem if we got rid of, and that is Carson Bench, a 6'1", 184 outfielder, age 22 with an ETA of 2027, former first-round pick, 19th overall back in 2024. And again, these stats are absolutely incredible. In fact, he's doing better in high A ball than he did in rookie ball last year, and he's a good prospect, definitely promising, but I go back to the point that the Mets are in such a jam-up, especially if they hold on to Jet Williams. Where are you going to put this guy? That's why I think this is one of the main catalysts as to why you can go out and get Paul Skenes. Now, going back to that trade proposal, here are the two guys that Boyle wasn't as worried about getting rid of. Number 2 prospect in the system, Brandon Sproat, a 6'3", 215 right-handed pitcher, aged 24, so he's a little bit older. In fact, he's older than Paul Skenes, with an ETA of this year in 2025 to make the bigs. Former second-round pick, 56th overall, back in 2023. And the stats are just sheerly not promising. This year is at his highest level in AAA ball, and he is not performing. A 1-4 record, 6.31 ERA in 44 1/3 innings pitched, and a WHIP of almost 1.5. And if you can't perform at the AAA level, there is no way you're going to perform in the MLB because the jump from AAA to the MLB is astronomical. Everyone says it's bigger than the trip from single A to double A to AAA. Everything just increases. But when you go from AAA to the bigs, it is a monster difference. And he's not performing in AAA, so I doubt he would perform in the major leagues, at least at this given moment. Additionally, Sproat is a starting pitcher. You would replace him with Paul Skenes, who is also a starting pitcher, and someone who has already established himself as a top 3, probably top 1 pitcher in the bigs, and you're really going to hold on to Brandon Sproat, who might have the potential of being a top MLB pitcher instead of going out and getting a top MLB pitcher, arguably the number 1 pitcher in the league. I think that you got to give up on Sproat if that return package is so great like Skenes. Now here's the last guy that was alluded to by Boyle and someone that he is not as concerned with getting rid of. It's Ryan Clifford. And if you look at the stats, a low average, a lot of home runs, a lot of RBIs, that's pretty similar to Pete Alonso with the exception of this year. A guy who hits for power, extra bases, and drives in runs. Clifford is 6'3", 200, a first baseman slash outfielder, age 21, former 11th round pick, 343rd overall selection back in 2022 2022 with an ETA of making the pros in 2026. Now, like Boyle said, he is more of a first baseman than he is a corner outfielder, and you already have your first baseman. You have Pete Alonso, and he has been awesome this year, and I think the Mets are going to take the option next year, keep Pete Alonso around, or they're going to sign him to a massive extension, and they are going to keep Pete Alonso in Flushing for a while, which really, then why are you going to have another first base prospect when you already have Mark Vientos probably as your DH of the future, considering his defense isn't that great? You don't really want him at third base, so you'd rather have him at the DH. Why are you going to keep another hitter that's basically just a hitter? Especially because it's Ryan Clifford, someone that we got in 2023 in a package for Justin Verlander, where we flipped an aging Verlander for Clifford as well as another prospect. I don't think this is a prospect that you have to worry about getting rid of, considering he really shouldn't even be in our system to begin with, because he was a return package for a guy that you flipped in terms of getting prospects in return. So overall, I am definitely a fan of this. Despite being in the middle at first, I am fully on board if the Mets were to go out and get this proposal. I say go for it. Go for Paul Skenes, because it's Paul Skenes. Look at this guy. 2024 Rookie of the Year, third in Cy Young voting, received MVP votes, and he didn't even pitch in the months of March, April, and the first week and a half of May. Oh, also, he started the All-Star game, which is a great deal and a big honor. Now, you see the stats on your screen right now. He is just incredible. And again, he didn't even pitch for the first month and a half of the season. He made his MLB debut on May 11th. The Pirates last year went 76-86. They were 15-8 with him on the mound. So a team that is below 500 overall was greatly above 500 when Skenes was on the mound. He also went 11-3 last year, and despite the poor record this year at 4-5, he has a 2.15 ERA. He simply just doesn't get run support because the Pirates are a bottom team in baseball. You put him on a team with the Met offense, at least the way it is on paper, he is going to thrive. Those win numbers are going to go up. He is incredible. Absolutely go for him. Now, you see the stats on the bottom of your screen, but I'm going to read the 162 game average because these numbers are just insanity. On a 162 game average where he is healthy for 162 games, he would go 15-8 with a 2.03 ERA in 200 and a thirds innings pitched, 247 strikeouts, an 0.94 whip, 8.4 WAR every single season, 10.7 K per nine, and nearly a 5 strikeout to walk ratio. In fact, that 2.03 ERA would put him fourth in the history of baseball in earned run average. So you're going to tell me we want these prospects so badly that we wouldn't go out and get a guy who has the fourth best ERA in the history of the sport? Granted, there's not enough minimum innings pitched, but the stat speaks for itself. If he was to continue this at this earned run average, he would go down as the fourth best pitcher in the history of the sport. Now, there's one last thing that we have to go over here, and that is also from Boyle. And he said, quote, "When it comes to commenting on trade proposals, if it's too easy to agree to, it needs some work." And obviously, this is the deal that the Mets are easily going to say yes to, meaning it will need some work on the Pirates' end if these rumors were to come up again next year, which I do believe is very, very possible. Now, the moral of the story today is that the Mets are not getting Paul Skenes this year, but it is very possible moving forward that the Mets would go out and get the best pitcher in baseball. I am 100% a go. Unless this deal gets even bigger and even crazier, then we would have to reevaluate, but still, it's Paul Skenes after all. Again, it's not going to happen this year, but it is something to have a little fun and take a look at. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you today. As always, thank you so much for watching, and let's go Mets.